If I walk out of this town alone, I might not make it. She didn't say it loud, didn't say it for anyone to hear. Just enough for the truth to exist between her and the empty road ahead. The wind moved through the narrow street of Red Hollow, lifting dust against the wooden storefronts like the town itself was trying to erase her. Lydia Hart did not look back. She had learned something about people in the last 6 months. They only stood beside you until it became inconvenient. Her small leather bag hung from her shoulder, heavier than it should have been. Not because of what was inside, but because of what she was leaving behind. At 24, she had come here believing in second chances. A quiet place, a new start, a life that didn't carry the weight of everything she had seen back east. She had been wrong. It started 3 nights ago. A lantern left burning too late, voices that weren't meant to be heard, names spoken in low tones behind the general store, men who smiled in daylight and did business in the dark. She hadn't meant to listen, but once you hear something like that, you don't get to unhear it. By morning, the whispers had already begun. Not about them, about her. They said she was trouble, said she had been snooping where she shouldn't, said she brought danger into a town that wanted peace. No one asked what she had actually seen. They never do. By noon, the sheriff suggested it would be safer if she left. Safer for who, he didn't say. Now the road stretched ahead of her, 30 miles of open prairie, no stagecoach for 2 days, just wind and whatever followed it. Behind her, hoofbeats. Lydia didn't stop, didn't turn. She kept walking, each step steady, like fear was something she could outrun if she refused to acknowledge it. The horse slowed beside her anyway. "You won't make Silver Creek before nightfall," a voice said. Calm, certain. She stopped, turned. The man sat tall in the saddle, broad-shouldered, dust on his coat, eyes sharper than anything in this town had the right to be. Ethan Rourke. She knew the name. Everyone did. The rancher who kept to himself. The one who didn't talk more than necessary, but somehow knew more than he should. "I didn't ask for company," Lydia said. He studied her for a moment. Not her face, not her fear. The road behind her. "I know," he said quietly. "That's not why I'm here." Something in his tone made her chest tighten. "You don't know anything about me," she added. A faint shift in his expression. Not disagreement, not surprise. Recognition. "I know enough," he said, walking out of this town alone. The wind picked up again, pulling at her coat, carrying that same uneasy silence that had followed her since morning. Lydia lifted her chin. "I'll take my chances." For a moment, he didn't move, didn't argue. Then, "So will they," he said. Her breath caught. "What does that mean?" Ethan's gaze shifted, past her, to the road she had just walked. "They're already looking," he said. The world seemed to still around those words. For the first time since she stepped out of Red Hollow, fear didn't sit quietly in her chest. It stood up and breathed. Ethan swung down from the horse. "You don't have to trust me," he said, "but you're not walking that road alone." He stepped closer, not enough to crowd her, just enough to make something clear. This wasn't an offer. It was a decision. Lydia looked past him, at the open land, at the distance she thought she could cross by herself. Then back at him, at the man who spoke like he already knew what was coming. And for the first time that day, she hesitated. Not because she was weak, but because something in her instincts whispered. This was no longer just a journey. This was survival. And whether she liked it or not, the man standing in front of her had just stepped into it. And she had a feeling he had been there longer than she had realized. They rode in silence at first. Not the comfortable kind. The kind that pressed against your thoughts until you could hear your own heartbeat louder than the wind. Lydia sat rigid in the saddle, hands steady on the reins, eyes fixed ahead. But she was listening to everything. The rhythm of the horse beneath her, the wind cutting across the grass, and behind it, anything that didn't belong. Ethan rode a few steps back, close enough to reach her, far enough not to crowd. He hadn't spoken again, hadn't asked questions, hadn't tried to explain himself. That bothered her more than if he had. "You always follow strangers out of town?" she said finally. Her voice was steady, almost. Ethan didn't answer right away. "I don't," he said. "Then why me?" A longer silence this time. Lydia turned slightly in the saddle, just enough to catch his expression. He wasn't looking at her. He was watching the horizon. "The wrong people noticed you," he said. "And they don't forget things like that." Her fingers tightened on the reins. "You keep saying they," she said. "Who exactly is they?" Ethan exhaled slowly. "Men who don't like loose ends." A chill moved through her, and it had nothing to do with the wind. "I didn't do anything," she said. "I just heard—" She stopped herself. Ethan noticed. Of course he did. "You heard enough," he said. Not accusing, not surprised. Certain. They rode on. The land opened wider as the town disappeared behind them. No buildings, no fences, just miles of dry grass and a sky that felt too big to hide anything. Lydia swallowed. Out here, there was nowhere to disappear. "Turn back," Ethan said suddenly. She frowned. "What?" "Just for a minute," he added. Something in his tone made her obey. She guided her horse in a slow half-circle. And then she saw it. Far in the distance, dust. Not wind, movement. Her breath caught. "That could be anyone," she said quickly. "It could," Ethan agreed. He didn't look convinced. "They're too far to tell," she added. "They won't stay that far," he said. The words settled heavy between them. Lydia turned back forward, her pulse louder now. "You knew this would happen," she said. Not a question. Ethan didn't deny it. "I hoped I was wrong." She let out a dry breath. "You weren't." "No," he said. Silence again, but it had changed. This wasn't uncertainty anymore. This was confirmation. Lydia adjusted in the saddle, sitting straighter now, more alert, more aware of every sound. "You could have told me," she said quietly. Ethan's voice was just as quiet when he answered. "You wouldn't have believed me." She didn't argue, because he was right. The wind shifted direction, cooler now, sharper. Storm coming. Or something worse. "How far to Silver Creek?" she asked. 2 days, he said. Her jaw tightened. "And them?" Ethan glanced once more over his shoulder. If they're tracking you... He didn't finish. He didn't need to. Lydia nodded slowly. Then, something in her expression changed. Not fear. Not exactly. Resolve. Then we don't ride like we're running, she said. Ethan raised an eyebrow. We ride like we're not afraid. A faint smile touched his mouth. That might be the smartest thing you've said yet. She didn't return the smile. But she didn't look away either. For the first time since he rode up beside her, she wasn't just enduring his presence. She was choosing it. Not because she trusted him. Not yet. But because something in her instincts told her, if he hadn't come, she wouldn't have made it past sunset. And now, whatever was coming behind them wasn't just chasing her anymore. It was riding into both of them. They didn't ride faster. That was the strange part. No panic, no rushing, just a steady pace, like nothing had changed. But everything had. Lydia could feel it in the way Ethan sat in the saddle now, more alert, every movement quieter, more controlled, like a man who had already stepped into danger and accepted it. You expecting them to catch up? She asked. Ethan shook his head slightly. No, he said. A beat. I'm expecting them to try something else. That made her stomach tighten. What does that mean? He didn't answer right away. Instead, he slowed his horse. Just a fraction. Lydia noticed. Why are we slowing down? Ethan's gaze moved ahead, scanning the land. Because if I were them, he said quietly, I wouldn't stay behind. A cold silence followed. Then, a sound. Faint. Off to the right. Hooves. Not behind. Not far. Close. Too close. Lydia turned sharply and saw them. Two riders breaking over a low ridge, cutting across the grass at an angle, intercepting. Her breath caught. They're ahead of us. I see them, Ethan said. His voice didn't rise, didn't rush, but his hand had already moved, checking the rifle at his side. Don't panic, he added. I'm not. You are, he said calm. And that's fine. That almost made her laugh. Almost. What do we do? She asked. Ethan didn't hesitate this time. We don't run. Her head snapped toward him. What? If we run, they chase, he said. If they chase, they control how this ends. The riders were getting closer now. Fast. You have a better idea? She asked. Ethan's eyes stayed forward. Yeah. A beat. We let them come to us. That sent a sharp chill through her. You're serious? Completely. Lydia swallowed. Every instinct in her screamed to turn, to ride, to disappear. But she didn't move. Because something in his voice, steady, certain, held her in place. The two riders slowed as they approached, not charging, confident, like men who already knew the outcome. Ethan guided his horse slightly in front of hers, not blocking, but close enough, protective. You stay right there, he said under his breath. Lydia didn't argue, didn't move. The riders stopped a few yards away. Dust settled slowly between them. One of the men smiled. Not friendly. Certain. Afternoon, he called. Ethan didn't return the smile. You're a long way from your business, he said. The man shrugged lightly. Funny thing about business, he replied. It tends to follow people. His eyes shifted past Ethan to Lydia. There it was. Recognition. You're coming with us, the second rider said. No negotiation. No question. Lydia felt her pulse spike. Ethan didn't move. She's not, he said. Simple. Final. The first man chuckled. And you are? Someone telling you to turn around. Silence stretched. The air tightened. The wind picked up again, dragging dry grass across the ground. You don't understand what you're standing in, the man said. Ethan's voice dropped just slightly. No, he said. I understand exactly. A beat. His hand shifted. Not fast, not dramatic, but enough. Enough for them to notice. Everything changed in that moment. The smiles faded. The tension sharpened. You sure you want to do this? The second rider asked. Ethan didn't look away. Already decided. A long pause. Then, one of the men laughed softly. Not amused. Interested. All right, he said. Let's see how far you're willing to go. His hand twitched. Fast. Too fast. But Ethan was faster. The rifle came up in a single motion. Don't, he said. Everything froze. 1 heartbeat. 2. No one moved. Not yet. But Lydia knew, whatever happened next, there was no turning back. The world didn't move until it did. The man's hand dropped, and everything broke loose. Gunfire cracked across the open land. Lydia flinched hard, but Ethan didn't. He fired first. One rider jerked back in the saddle, not down, but thrown off balance. Ride! Ethan snapped. That was all it took. Lydia kicked her horse, and they were moving. Fast. The ground blurred beneath them, wind tearing past her face, heart hammering so loud it drowned everything else. Another shot rang out behind them. Dirt exploded just off to her side. They're shooting! Keep riding, Ethan shouted. He didn't look back, didn't slow, just rode. Hard. Lydia leaned forward, gripping the reins tighter, her fear turning into something sharper. Focus. They crested a low ridge, and Ethan suddenly pulled left. Not that way, she started, but he cut her off. Trust me. 2 words. No time to argue. She followed. They dropped into a narrow ravine, hidden from open view. The sound of hooves dulled. The wind shifted. For a moment, just a moment, they disappeared. Ethan slowed slightly, just enough to look back. They'll split, he said. They won't chase together. How do you know that? Because they're not scared, he replied. A beat. They're hunting. That sent a chill straight through her, and right on cue, a shadow moved above the ridge. One rider, cutting down. Closer. Faster. They found us. I know. Ethan pulled his horse to a sudden stop. Lydia nearly rode past him. What are you doing? Ending this one, he said. Before she could react, he swung down from the saddle, rifle already in his hands. Stay behind me. No, we should keep moving. If we keep running, they keep coming. His voice was calm. Too calm. And if we stop? A beat. One less problem. The rider appeared at the top of the ravine, silhouetted against the sky, gun already drawn. Time slowed. Lydia's breath caught, her hands shaking, but she didn't run, didn't move. Ethan stepped forward, placing himself fully between her and the threat. The rider fired. Ethan shifted, the bullet tearing past his shoulder. He didn't flinch. He fired back. The man's horse reared, wild, then twisted sideways. The rider lost balance, slipped, and hit the ground hard. Silence. Heavy, broken only by the horse bolting away. Lydia stood frozen, heart pounding. Ethan didn't celebrate, didn't relax. He moved forward carefully, checking, making sure. Then he turned back to her. "You all right?" She nodded, but her voice came out small. "You could have been hit." Ethan shrugged slightly. Wasn't. That answer, simple, unbothered, did something to her, something she didn't expect. "You didn't have to do that," she said. He looked at her then. Really looked. "Yeah," he said. "I did." A long pause stretched between them, the kind that changed things. Lydia swallowed. "Why?" Ethan exhaled slowly, eyes drifting toward the ridge above. "Because whoever's after you, they're not stopping. A beat. And I don't leave people halfway through something like that." Her chest tightened. Not fear this time. Something else. Something warmer. More dangerous. Before she could respond, Ethan's expression shifted again. Alert. Sharp. "We're not done," he said. She felt it too now. The silence. Wrong again. "How many left?" she asked. Ethan reloaded calmly. "At least 2, he said. Then he met her eyes. "Maybe more." The wind picked up again, dragging dust through the ravine. Lydia tightened her grip on the reins. "Then what do we do now?" Ethan swung back into the saddle. This time, no hesitation. "We stop running," he said. A beat. "We choose where this ends." And just like that, this wasn't escape anymore. It was a fight. They didn't run again. Not after that. Ethan chose the ground, a narrow pass between 2 ridges, high enough to see them coming, tight enough to make numbers matter less. "If they want you," he said, "they come through here." Lydia nodded. No argument this time. No fear in her voice. Just quiet understanding. The waiting was the hardest part. Minutes stretched. Wind moved through the dry grass, soft, restless, like the land itself was holding its breath. Then, hooves. More than before. 3 riders this time, maybe 4. Hard to tell through the dust. "They're coming straight," Lydia whispered. Ethan lifted the rifle slightly. Good. No hesitation, no doubt. The first rider broke into the pass, and the world snapped tight again. Gunfire echoed between the rocks. Louder here, closer. Ethan fired, then moved, never staying still long enough to be an easy target. Lydia stayed behind the rock he had chosen, heart racing, but she didn't freeze, didn't hide. Her eyes tracked everything, learning, adapting. Another rider pushed forward, too confident, too exposed. Ethan didn't miss. The man dropped. The others hesitated. That was the crack. That was the moment. "They're not as sure anymore," Lydia said. Ethan didn't look back. "They don't need to be sure," he replied. "They just need to be desperate." A pause, then movement again. One rider tried to circle, flank, smart. Ethan saw it. But this time, he wasn't the only one. "Left!" Lydia called. Sharp, certain. Ethan shifted instantly, fired, and the flank collapsed before it formed. Silence followed. Not total, but enough. Enough to feel it, the fight draining out of the moment. The last rider didn't push forward, didn't test them. He stared for a long second, then turned, and rode. Just like that, it was over. The wind returned first, soft, carrying dust through the pass again. Lydia didn't move, didn't speak, not until Ethan lowered the rifle. "You're safe," he said. Simple, certain. She stepped out slowly, hands still shaking just a little, but her voice steady. "You didn't leave." Ethan glanced at her. "I told you I wouldn't." A beat. She swallowed, something breaking loose inside her. "Everyone else did," she said quietly. The words hung there, heavy, honest. Ethan stepped closer, not rushed, not careful, just there. "I'm not everyone else." That was it. No speech, no promises dressed up pretty, just truth. Lydia let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding, and for the first time, in a long time, her shoulders dropped. The weight eased. Not gone, but shared. She looked at him. Really looked this time. "Where are you going?" she asked. Ethan tilted his head slightly. "Wherever I was headed before," he said. A small pause. "Unless you've got somewhere safer in mind." A faint smile touched her lips. Not big, but real. "I don't," she admitted. Another pause. Then, "Maybe I don't need one." Ethan studied her for a moment, then nodded once. That was enough. They mounted up again, but this time they rode side by side. Not ahead, not behind. Together. The sun dipped lower behind the hills, casting long shadows across the land. The road stretched forward, uncertain, uncharted, but no longer empty. Lydia glanced at him once more. "Guess I'm not riding alone anymore," she said. Ethan didn't look over, but his voice carried something new. Quiet, certain. "Never were," he said, "and never will be again." The wind moved around them, softer now, like the land itself had settled. And for the first time, the silence between them felt like something good.